Do you like the book cover here? Yeah. So my book will come out April 17th, and pretty excited about it. And I wanted to describe a little bit like what brought me to write this book here. I'm just going to move forward here with this slide here. So I have been working with clients for now like 3 decades, and when I began this journey, just like everyone else, I think it started when I picked up the book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Yeah, all of us? Okay. Well, if I probably stuck with that one book and I got all the principles and I really embodied the teachings, it might have been the only book I needed, correct? So many of us, we get excited, then we get another book. Then we go to a retreat, then we maybe see a coach, a therapist, but we find ourselves still in these, say, psychological negative patterns, correct? And then in time, what happens, maybe we have an idea where the influence was, such as I had parents who were neglectful or alcoholics, or I moved around a lot when I was a child, therefore 12 times before I even was a senior, therefore I can't stay in one spot more than 2 years. But a lot of times when people do coaching, therapy, very often they have a narrative of where the roots began, but very little do you see maybe their life changed. And this is no judgment. You probably you have friends or even yourself where they've seen a therapist for 10, 15, 20 years, and you behind, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, what do you talk about now? What are you talking about? Because at least I'm under the impression that when we are working on our issues, that we want them to go away and we want to be in the action of that new state of beingness, right? All right? So it's one thing to talk about it and say that's my stuff. It's another thing to now embody the experience. And so I worked with Dr. Netherton, who worked with Fritz Perls, Carl Rogers, and he was like one of the pioneers in the 60s who walked away from traditional psychoanalysis. And his technique combined Gestalt therapy, a bunch of other modalities, and his technique was called the Netherton method. And one of the things that was very profound with his work was that within just 90 minutes to, say, 2 hours with a client, he would be able to create a shift, a change forever. And so it's taken me 30 years to simplify that process. And how can I duplicate it? Because it's one thing to train someone, it's another thing to, what is the actual mechanism that works to make that happen? Does that make sense? So the book came from that, and I had an idea of what I wanted to write, but it took me time to simplify this. And if any of you are copywriters or in the marketing, you know how long it takes to simplify a message, right? And so that's where my work stems from work with clients. In those 6,000 clients, I do mention 90% success rate. And when I say that, that means where, just say if they had been, scared to be in a relationship, they're married with children, if they have found themselves, say, always self-sabotaging when it came to other interpersonal relationships or business endeavors, they're now able to move past that invisible wall. So that's where my book came from. And so now I'm here trying to offer it to the world so people can experience the value. And maybe in time, this is going to be turned into a workbook so people can facilitate the process as well. So anyway, so that's a little bit the background. And by the way, that's an image on my book. Kind of cool, huh? So why do we remain stuck in our psychological prisons even after years of healing, coaching, or therapy? And one thing I want to bring up is that if you notice that sometimes people might have a good feeling in a group setting, or maybe they are using plant medicine, or where they talk to their friends and their friends are commiserating with them and their challenges. And through that connection, they might feel good because they feel seen. They might feel good because that moment in time, and they might label that experience as an actual shift. But then the next day, they are where they were again. Do you understand? And so part of this, what I'm going to share here is to talk about the difference between actual change versus just feeling good for a moment. It's great to feel good, but ultimately I think what we want to experience is more trust in our life, confidence truly in the flow of life, and to be able to, if you believe in the law of attraction, create circumstances that provide more ease and are more conducive to the life that we want to live, correct? So I believe that we attract what we are, and we attract what we are moment by moment. And what I mean by that, I can be this person here and who's maybe smiling and I'm giving a good presentation and then I'm a little bit tired and then I don't know, I get upset and then I go to the co-op and all of a sudden someone gets in my face. Well, it doesn't mean I'm bad, doesn't mean that person's bad, it's just for whatever reason I elicited that experience in that moment. So for me, I recognize that I'm not supposed to be perfect. I just need to work with what life brings through the most ease and compassion as possible. And then through that, when I'm in that pause, I can always learn from each experience and expand my awareness. So when I talk about psychological prisons, what I'm actually clearly saying is this, is that when we walk away and we're going, God, that asshole, and then we judge ourselves for judging that person, or I can't believe that I blew up at my partner again when I told her or him I wouldn't, and I told him or her that I would hold space for them when they shared. And I can't believe that. The psychological prisons that we live in, they're all self-made. And as you agree, typically most traumas or most experiences, it's quick, right? It's everything afterwards, right? Right? It's the integration. That's the psychological prison that we get ourselves into. And so a big part of my book and what I'm going to share here is how that mechanism works and how to move past that. So, is there any questions so far? And I will repeat the question so it's heard in the video, if not. Okay. All right, so these are the common sequences of healing and transformation. So the first step is that we notice the patterns, like recurring anger. It might be that, wow, I've been married 7 times. Maybe it is me. I've had 10 different jobs, and every person that fired me said, you need to work out your father issues. Well, hey, maybe there's something to say about that. So it's more, we finally realize that it is me, okay? The next step is where we typically talk it out to our friends. Hey, do you have this problem? Or your friends might say, yeah, we see that in you, but we never said anything to you because you get defensive. But you just start talking about it. And this is what most people do. It's a generalization. You start just kind of communicating. You're no longer afraid to admit that I've got something going on. The third step is that you might go to a coach. You get help. You go to retreats. You seek some type of neutral support. And that's when we realize that we might not be equipped by just reading a self-help book or watching YouTube videos and so forth. The next step is understanding the roots. And the roots, I would say, are usually what happened to me in the past, such as my parents were not there, my father favored my younger brother, to some type of trauma, sexual assault, or something like that. And so those are very important, I would say, narratives to connect to. However, this is where most people get stuck. This is where most people get stuck in traditional therapy. Because what ends up happening is that you'll talk to a person, and more often they'll help you manage your anxiety or your anger or the next partner you're dating and say, well, you have abandonment issues, Marcia, so this is what's coming up. But who wants to manage their anger or their abandonment issues, right? You want to move past that. So most people get stuck there, and I'll tell you why. It is because when you're talking about a past experience, remember, your brain doesn't discern time, space, or reality. So when there's this idea that it happened over here, but your consciousness doesn't know the difference, so therefore you re-experience it as if it's happening now. And as you tell that story, not only to your therapist and to your friends, your brain is hardwiring that as if it just happened now and it can happen again. And then that puts you in that kind of victim mode to where, because it's not healed and integrated in a healthier way, you find yourself still carrying what we might call now PTSD or trauma. Does that make sense? I wrote my dissertation on PTSD, and so I come to learn that PTSD, a basic way to look at it is that it's unprocessed information. It's information or a way that you experience something that still doesn't make sense. And therefore, there's confusion. And so again, when you are triggered, when you maybe enter a new relationship and you're afraid that he or she might leave, that stuff gets kicked up again because it's not integrated. Would you agree that there's some stuff that people will consider very traumatic for that you experienced, but you just got over, right? Raise some hands. Sure. Like stuff this, all right? And wouldn't you agree that you've had some past relationships and where you thought it was the love of your life and you just don't even know why you were interested in that person? You know, all of us are here, right? Okay. Well, I don't think we swept that under the rug. For whatever reason, we somehow made sense to ourselves about it. We knew we made the right step to walk out of that toxic relationship. We maybe had a good coach, we maybe integrated, but it now just made sense to us. Therefore, we can have a healthy autobiographical memory of ourselves, of being this now moment and going, yeah, I once dated that guy and he cheated on me a bunch of times. Or yes, my parents were not communicative to me, but I'm here right now in this body now and feeling good. And that's the difference between being stuck in a past and being changed. Being changed. So that is why people get stuck, is because they talk about the past over and over again and never really integrating it. And the next one is change the mindset. And what's really important about that is the action. By the way, you have a little, can you move that thing?
Oh, yeah.
Just, you know, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, mindset is not just saying, I'll give you an example. So, I used to talk really fast. I might still be doing, I don't know. Okay? Well, imagine me getting to the root of that, and that is where I calm down my body, I become aware of my breath. Well, I'm connecting to my nervous system in a state of beingness I want to be when I'm here. It has to be practiced. It can't be me walking up here, okay, I'm going to be calm now. It has to be something practiced. So whether it's actual technique at home, or just imagine if I were nervous talking to people, it would take practice. So for example, if someone came to me and they're afraid to be hurt and they're looking to date again, I want them out in the field to practice. So for example, if a person was touch deprived, meaning they haven't been touched for 15 or 20 years, I would say, go get a massage. Like, feel what it feels like to have someone touch your skin, in a safe space. Or if it's someone who wants to ask people out, typically that might be a man. It's a generalization. I don't know how it is now. I might say just approach anyone, meaning even someone you wouldn't be interested in dating, like at the grocery store. How are those oranges? I mean, get into small talk, because what you're doing is you're just exercising the experience of meeting new people. And if you exercise that when you actually meet someone you're interested in, you have practice. So I'm a firm believer of action. I'm a firm believer of solidifying that in your body, because that is ultimately when you know you've integrated that which you've learned. Make sense? All right. I like that. So what if the key of your freedom is hiding behind the shadows of your hidden beliefs? And let's get into that one. So here are some of the beliefs here. All right, I'm going to share these stories, and this will make more sense, okay? Here's a story of a woman named Jennifer. And this is a woman who was really successful, went to healing retreats, read self-help books, supposedly done all the right things, and even worked with therapists. And she learned that basically she had a very traumatic childhood, and her parents got divorced, and she saw her mother go into depression and not talk to her. And in her mind, she told herself, I would never become like my mother. And so therefore she became an overachiever. She went to college. She made her own money. And interesting, when she came to see me, it wasn't so much to work out the psychological stuff. It was more that, why do I meet men who I'm not really attracted to? Or why am I more comfortable with softer or younger men? And basically what it was is that her belief was, she basically felt more in control. The hidden belief was long distance or softer relation or softer men, younger men are safer. That was the overarching belief that was creating the experience of attracting men who she mothered. She would maybe hold more space for them. It was where something in her, basically in her nervous system, would get triggered by stronger men, maybe more masculine men, to where maybe it just triggered some part of herself that felt like the unknown. But what we did was move her into the space where she literally came up with almost this kind of affirmation or new belief. Emotional safety comes from trust myself and not by controlling others. Now listen to that. This is very important when I talk about your one hidden belief. This is taking personal responsibility. It's an I statement. So you notice how many people, maybe some here, will say, I have to trust you. Trust needs to be earned. But those are usually people who maybe get cheated on, or people who feel a lot of anxiety, or they're disappointed when that person maybe doesn't show up. Ultimately, the trust that we want to embody is this. I trust I can make a new decision based off whatever happens. I trust I will still be happy regardless if there's change. I trust that I can make the best decisions for myself. And if that's not the right decision, I know there's only new decisions. And I have confidence in that. So do you understand that? So for her and most people, she would date people she can control. Also, men who seem stronger, who maybe were more masculine, like for her, she felt out of control. Does that make sense? So once she recognized that her safety comes from within, she actually met a man and she's married now. And so this is what I'm talking about, these hidden beliefs. Now, the belief she had before was, my mom was depressed, that's the way I am. My dad left me, so I'm afraid to be abandoned. It was all causation by other people and circumstances, versus how she interpreted both consciously and unconsciously. Consciously was, I'm never going to be like my mom. Unconsciously is, I'm afraid to be abandoned like my mom. I'm afraid to lose my independence to a man like my mom did. Do you understand? But on the surface, it was all what had happened in her childhood, and therefore it was more blamed on her parents' marriage versus what she took away from that and how it still was unhealed and fully processed. Okay? Here's another one, Dell. This was an interesting one. This person called me up. He had fired 2 therapists prior to working with me, which is a concern. That's like a red flag for me. Okay, so I don't want to be like number 3. But he came in and basically he said, I asked him about the other therapists, and he said that they were trying to get him to do things, that they were trying to control him. And he also was living in the United States. I forgot where he moved from, but he was avoiding his parents also. He did not want to talk to them. And he was kind of like a man in his 40s who didn't seem grown up. He really cared about what his parents felt about him, and even me. And so while we were doing the session, the second session, he started like sweating a little bit as we went deeper. And he said, you know, I'm feeling comfortable. I kind of want to go. I says, well, you can open up the door if you want to let in some air. And I opened up the door, and he sat there for about another 5-10 minutes. And then he said, I don't feel comfortable. I just want to go. And I said to Dale, I said, well, you know what's best for you. You know, I'm still here. You know, just let me know that you're fine when you get home. That's all. And I thought he would never show up. And 2 days later, he called me up and said, Dr. Ray, was that a trick? I says, what do you mean? He says, well, I recognize that you just let me go. I said, sure, I trust that you'll make the right decisions. And what that led to was that he felt the need to know that someone trusted his decisions. Remember, his parents didn't. Okay? And in addition to that, what was uncovered, because he showed up, was this. He felt the need to please me, make me happy, like his parents also. So look at that. I must please others to be accepted. How many people here would say they're kind of people pleasers? Like you think, yeah, that's a lot of pressure. So you know what happens. You get awkward. You say weird things, right? Because you want others to be happy. But it's not so much you want them to be happy. You're not comfortable with just letting them be themselves. And then secondly, you might judge yourself if they're not happy and blame yourself. So therefore, what happened with this person, Dale, was that through the process, he learned that he can establish boundaries and still be valued for who he is, meaning saying no to his parents because they were overbearing. Like he had this idea they wouldn't love him, so therefore he would just avoid them. To even when he showed up with those different therapists, there was a part of him because of the kind of hierarchical position, he was looking up to the therapist like as if they're like a parent as well. And by allowing him to just find himself and helping him trust himself, he arrived at that. Because also in our session, he liked me, I liked him, and then he started exercising this. So that's an example also. But even with Dale, his hidden belief was, I must please others to be accepted. But underneath that was that he was afraid people wouldn't like him by him being himself. And the third one here is Meredith. And this was a couple I worked with. And what ended up happening was the husband was really good at communicating. And what he brought up was that whenever he would share, she would raise her voice, she would dismiss him, she would shut it down, and she didn't hear it as like loving feedback because he wanted to be more connected to her and grow. And what ended up happening in that session, I think this is in my book, I probably should know that, right? But is that when we were doing the process, when I try to like call her into something, she got defensive with me also, and somehow received me as if I were talking down. And in that experience, what happened was, what was kicked up in her was this. I said to her, is what your experience with me, what you experienced with Dell? And obviously, I mean Meredith, her I forgot what her husband's name was, and she said yes. I said, and she recognized that I was a neutral person, and that led to where she recognized that she was afraid to not be loved for making mistakes. She was afraid that if she admitted that she was at fault or that there was something she needed to work on, that she was less attractive. So that defensiveness that would come out was basically just that fear. So we connected her to that, reframing that experience to where she now was able to receive feedback from her husband. And it was really an amazing session. I forgot what his name was. And these are also not the real names. So that's part of why I'm losing the story just to, okay. But he told her, he says, I love you. I share with you because you're my soulmate. And she started to cry. But it was just in that moment she recognized that feedback equals love. Because as you know, if someone is your true friend, you know that they will speak their truth, even if that means losing a friendship, right? So, is this making sense to you, what you read here? Okay. All right. Yikes, even more hidden beliefs. So, I'm going to give you some fun stories here. So, prenatal influences. All right. So, Thanksgiving, I had my cousin who brought up to me, and we were getting food. It was Thanksgiving, and she said to me, for some reason, around this time of the year, like I hear this voice like, I'm a bad mother. I'm a bad mother, like, and I don't know what I'm doing. And while pouring the gravy, tell me more. And she started saying some things. I said, those don't sound like your voice. I go, when's your birthday? And she said, oh, it's next month. And I said, what was happening to your mom when she was pregnant right now? Oh, she just left my dad. She was pregnant with me, and she was in a hotel with my 2 siblings. Her mother was saying, I'm a bad mother. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making a mistake. Okay? So I did a rebirthing session with her. It only took 1 session. But it came from that. Now keep in mind, even if a unconscious baby doesn't necessarily, is not able to discern like language, it can feel like something's wrong with it by energy and vibrations through the mother. I hope you don't start thinking about, oh my God, what is my child? What do they think? Oh my God, what was I going through? Because as you know, they chose you anyway. So, parents' relationship, that's a funny one too, where I worked with a person where she somehow had this like lingering depression, and it was really for no reason. And we talked about her parents, and she said, I had the perfect parents, they never fought. You know, and then as you went deeper, see like laughter, she went, oh yeah, they would hold things in. And she picked up on that. I said, so what was the overall temperature, like the energy of the house? Depressed. So even though she had no like sexual abuse or something you would say, oh, that is what happened. Just being in a house and modeling that through mirror neurons, and also being a sponge for parents, you know, we are, that she took that on. So when I worked with her, we just taught her how to be happy. I mean, it was basically moving to that space of what a room looked like if it was filled with joy, and practicing that. I'm simplifying it in this share here, but that was it. There wasn't a lot of deep work. It was more fun and play and dancing. And then collective narratives. That's an interesting one. So, I don't want to get into politics, but I want to get into the energy of it. So, right now, like for example, during like the recent debates and stuff like that, you saw basically 2 old men arguing, right? I mean, just like chaos. So there's uncertainty, and we all are watching, it's going, oh shit. And we're feeling that in our nervous system. Kids are feeling that. Younger kids are feeling that. Collective narratives. Are we safe? Where are we going? Okay? So collective narratives definitely influence us because we feel other people. So in my book, I have the primary like 11 influencers that most of us have had in our life. And after each chapter, each section, there's 5 questions that where it invites you into examining what that experience was like. And we're talking about sexuality, we're talking about religion, We're talking about trauma. These are some of them as well. I just put that up there to be exciting. And that's for me to get a drink of my water. All right. Okay, so let's transform these. Okay. These are some questions, and this might sound very simple, but again, in my book and other things that I teach, I get a little bit more in depth. And when I typically do workshops, I actually do live coaching in real time, so it does make a little more sense. But unearthing hidden beliefs. What persistent issues in my life brings me attention or care I might not otherwise receive? In what ways might my current challenges be providing me with comfort and security? What fears come up when I think about letting go of my problem? Now, notice these questions. They invite you to basically take personal responsibility to get to the core fears. Does that make sense? What fears come up when I think about letting go of my problem? I'm going to have to get a job. I'm going to have to walk away from these people, and my family will ostracize me. And so many people will stay stuck because that's the fear. But everyone around them's asking that person, why don't you walk away with so-and-so? Walk away from so-and-so. So you'll see people in these like vicious patterns, because underneath that is that somehow it might be providing some security or secondary gain. These are part of what I call hidden beliefs. This is how you confront some of the hidden beliefs and secondary gains. What do I gain from keeping things the way that they are? I'm going to give you an interesting one, because this happened with actual like some seasoned coaches I've worked with. And that's particularly with coaches who, their message was helping others, say, move through trauma, or to where it was sexual abuse. And a big part of how that coach would lead was by talking about being victimized. And they were still carrying a victim identity. And therefore their followers, was attracted to that persona. When we had a breakthrough with a particular coach, she did say, oh my God, what message am I going to say now? Okay? Yeah, so there are some identities we have to stay in a certain way. In what ways do my problems keep me in my comfort zone? We know what those are, all right? Because a lot of us are afraid of something. For example, if someone says, I'm afraid of public speaking, all right? Well, that's not enough for me. Why? Well, because people are going to judge me, I might mess up. And, well, I don't want to seem stupid. And then it'd be like, I don't feel comfortable with myself. Okay, then what do we need to do to get you comfortable with yourself? Because everyone who's watching you feels the same way, right? I mean, when people, a lot of people will just, I call them still excuses. I can't do this. That's their wall. That's their resistance. But with creative questions and understand yourself with just these compassionate questions, you can actually get to that. What puts me in my comfort zone? What responsibilities do I avoid by having this problem? So, obviously these are the benefits of what your life could look like if you move past these invisible walls. I want to move forward to, is it time it is? Does anyone have any questions so far about this? No?
I can wait till the end. It's related, but maybe a tangent. So.
You can, and you feel free to bring it up, and I'll.
All right. So all of our senses, I'm going to count memory as a sense for the sake of this, can evoke so much in us, whether it's smell or hearing or whatever. And for me, and others may feel similarly, music I work through music a lot, and I may remember a song from my past, and sometimes it's like it's a gem, it's a code,
Yes.
and I'm meant to receive it, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And other times, I'll remember things, songs that I wish I didn't know by heart, or that I wish I wouldn't have heard so much when I was younger. That have like, and it's like, wow, like so many old songs were coming up for me in the last like couple days, and I'm like, some of them like, okay, cool. Other ones I'm like, how do I know this? It's like embedded into my
Yeah, that's good.
consciousness. So how does one go about, because that's connected to collective conditioning, how does one excavate that or like transmute that? Because there's just so many
Alright.
codes I don't need.
I'm going to respond to the question that was asked here was like, how is it that music can sometimes make us feel good, trigger us to bring up nostalgia and things like that. So whenever I'm in a like bummed out mood, I put on More Than Feeling by Boston. For whatever reason, that song just rocks my soul. So I get that. Or classic rock always gets me there. And then there's some music that I hear it, and I remember a time when I was a child and I was maybe depressed and working through something. Music is a great way to activate the senses in ways that you're not even aware of. And so another way to look at this is that whether it's music or breath work or sound healing, they're all permission slips. And all of us somehow resonate with something that elicits our awareness, our consciousness. But it is still us having an experience. Even this tree plant here, I mean, I can say this is magical, but really it's how I'm interpreting this plant over here. Do you understand? So think of, for you, music might be that vehicle, if that makes sense. Now, if there's like bad memories coming up, remember this. In this now space, you're having a bad thought now. It's not from the past. And the music is no differently than you having a dream and where you're trying to swim out of like water. It is somehow activating that part of yourself to pay attention to that. But this is an interesting thing, is the filter, and that is this. If it makes you feel a negative way or makes you feel bad, remember your consciousness is still paying attention to it that way. Why would I hear this music this way? How can this music be neutral even if I don't like it? Because we don't like all the music out there, but most songs don't trigger us. So it's being able to recognize it's not the song, it's how I interpret the song and whatever experience maybe I didn't integrate when I was a child.
Association.
Yeah, it's the association, yes. But that's a beautiful way to heal. So when you have that, when you hear the music, what is the most coherent thought you say to yourself?
In a negative situation when it's like a trigger?
Yes.
Oh. Why do I know this? Like why is this message in me?
Why is this message in me? Yeah, that's interesting.
Because it's more so about like the lyrics of certain things, you know. I grew up in
Yeah.
I'm a millennial, so I grew up with a lot of stuff. And you know, sometimes those songs will come up and it will feel beautiful and I can dedicate it to my inner child in a loving way.
Mhm.
Other times I'm like, whoa, if I know this song by heart, how has that shaped my beliefs about life and
Yeah.
humans and how do I almost like I don't want that to be a message that's in my unconscious that's going to project onto others or
So what you're saying is that so about music and about this experience, remember how you're paying attention to it is still you. There's a lot of judgment in a way still of how it should be. In other words, in that moment, you're still interpreting it from maybe a negative lens. Whatever's there is there, such as if you squeeze a lemon, you get lemon juice. You squeeze an orange, you get orange juice. If you play a song that elicits some type of experience, well, that's what's supposed to be healed. No differently than if you were in a breath work session with my girlfriend and you were to start to cough and that, you wouldn't second guess and go, why am I coughing now and why am I crying? You go, oh, it's breath work. That's what's supposed to come up. But for whatever reason, when it comes to music, you're putting a negative lens on it. The music is there for you to let come up what needs to be released or understood. That's all.
Can I say something?
Yes.
About that? Music and lyrics and everything around us, like movies and everything, is like a program. We're being programmed with this thing. Like I have a son that's 21 years old, and he listens to a lot of really negative rap that's like bitches and hoes and bitches just want money. And so like I'll be like, hey, you want a girlfriend? Like, no, bitches want money. So he's got programmed this horrible thing, and then but you maybe can look at it again now that you're more involved and be like, okay, well I don't really resonate with this lyrics that are like trying to be programmed into my mind, and like the youth is being programmed this way, and so you can just be like, no, I don't really want to listen to the song anymore. That's not, I don't believe in that, and then like move on to more positive lyrics and stuff that you do resonate with in this moment.
For sure, and that is what I thank you for that. I do tend to listen to more like medicinal, like uplifting music, but it's more so like it'll just hit me like a memory, and I'll know every word to like an old Eminem song or something like that, and it's like whoa, like not that all of his songs are negative, but like the ones that are, I'm like, how did that shape my feelings about people? And one thing that came up for me too, and I do this anytime I'm triggered with people, is like, how can I lean into like compassion around it? Because whether it's compassion for myself and the younger me that understood or took in those messages, but even for the person who put it out there, because they must have been in a painful place to say those things and to have that effect. And
I'm going to speak to that, but also want to open this up a little more to everyone else here.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about this, what I get in this real now moment, is how these things do something to us. Just listen to the overarching message. No, I know you mentioned about the lyrics you're talking about that were negative, and I know you don't prefer that, and I don't either. However, it is a part of our collective consciousness. It's one part of it, and there's also light in there. I agree with you, that how it can bring up negative feelings, because if my son were to listen to that, I'm like, he's also only 9, but because that would just be really strange. Yeah. But I also recognize that it's a part of the collective we need to heal. So to pray and bring love and light to. So whether we don't like it, it's recognizing that if we have resistance to it, it's us having resistance to ourselves and to source. We close ourselves off. So what would it be like to listen to any music from an open heart and be able to transform that? And also in that, when we're in that empowered space, we're able to talk to whoever's listening to it, or if we don't like something, from a different lens of connection versus get that out, separating it. Because that's ego. So is there any other questions or anything about hidden beliefs, or if there's something you would like to ask me about, like maybe something you've been stuck on, you want me to know how I might work with you?
So I just want to ask, like, so in the book, are you taking us through, like you said, there's a lot of questions. Are you taking us through like a process maybe to get beyond that hidden belief? Okay.
You don't actually.
That's why I was like.
Okay.
Is that in the book? What's in the book?
Okay. So first off, this presentation was done before the book was finished, and I didn't know that how I would deliver this. So this is the first time. So thank you for that. So the book first gets right into a case study. So you see what's possible, and you see the hidden beliefs of a person. It's written out. You are able to read what they go through. Then it takes you into how we've come to be, how we're programmed. Okay? And we go through like the 11 influencers of like how we've come to be and how to break through that. Then it goes to each chapter is almost like a dance. There's the 5th chapter where it's a collective detox. So many people will say, I'm feeling this way because of what's going on in politics, or I'm feeling really stressed because like during the pandemic, a lot of people said I couldn't go out, I was closed in, there was tension. But my son and I were going outside as much as possible every day in the wilderness. We kind of lived our own reality experience. Now I felt the collective doing this, but underneath that collective fear was people were afraid to die. A lot of people don't have a good relationship with death. So let's be real with that, okay? So while there's people yelling at each other to wear masks and there was this tension, underneath that was, I don't want to die. So you felt, but because I have a peaceful relationship with death, I wasn't impacted. So it's called the collective detox. Every one of us, when we're triggered by what's happening on our planet, it will always directly come back to us and what's unhealed. I have that in the book also. Then there's an initiation process also, because this is a generalization, but I think you'll agree that most people will blame their challenges on what their mom or dad did or did not do. Childhood, that's it. But what's interesting about that is that we typically arrive to a space, if we do traditional therapy, where it's, oh, my father was this way and that way, and this is why I am the way I am. I'm closed off and guarded, and that's it. And that person just manages his or her life. But the question that most people don't ask is this: you're 50 years old, you're 60 years old, why do you still care? Your parent's not even alive anymore. You have basically the totality of your life and who you are is based off an old story. It's based off of this idea that you're supposed to have your parents love you. Remember that. We think our parents are supposed to love us. It's a preference. We hope our parents love us, but it's not a universal truth. Do you understand that? And many people, on their deathbed, feel they were shortchanged. So there's also an initiation process of sentences that you go through. I'm also making a recorded version of it on my website, so where you can actually close your eyes and go through this process. But it goes into a lot of those sticky thoughts where we feel like we missed out on something in life. Even a woman never having a baby, not being able to get pregnant. That is in there. To getting married, there's different things like that, right? I mean, how many, yeah.
I felt that when I didn't get married until I was like 50, but then
Yeah.
I thought, wow, as soon as I signed that piece of paper, it was like I took on all this, whatever that means, being married legally. I'd lived with someone before for 15 years, and I didn't feel like I had that same kind of adoption of whatever all those beliefs are in when you're married, officially married.
Yeah,
It's powerful.
these outdated paradigms, these things we've been taught were made up by humans
Yeah.
and that collective. And they don't serve us now. So this book kind of sheds all of that so you can arrive to who you are. When I work, yes?
In your book, does it help you to break down to get to what these hidden beliefs
Yes.
are? Wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I hope it does. I mean, I wrote the book and I'm like, I hope people get this. But then again, I have a support system. Like what's happening is like once a week, I'm going to be doing a hour coaching session. I did one last Sunday and last Saturday. I'm going to do another one this Saturday at 11 a.m. So if you put your phone on that, and you'll get notified when the book comes out, but you'll also get an email of that free Zoom meeting, and you'll see like real-time coaching. Yes.
Some beliefs are very complex, like in the alcoholic family with narcissistic parents who didn't do their job very well. Does it get to the complex things? It's not as simple as...
Oh yeah. Well, so remember even that, I'll break down. You said that complex things like so remember, if you come to a place like you arrive that my parents did the best of what they are conscious of,
Right.
and you really own that, whether they're truly, if someone's really a narcissist or not, it wouldn't matter. If you can't let go of that, you have some hidden belief that's making that true. You have to peel that back.
I don't hold it against them, but I've learned behaviors that I'm not even conscious of, that I reenact how I learned to behave when I was
Yes.
a kid with them. So it's not about forgiving them
Okay.
or blaming them or anything like that, but it's like, okay, what do I do with all these beliefs that I have?
So share one of those beliefs.
Not to trust anybody.
Not to trust anyone, okay.
For yourself.
Okay, so I shared during this presentation a little bit about that. It'd be breaking that down. What if I trust? What am I afraid of? What's the worst thing that can happen? Who would I become if someone were to betray me? Do I really trust myself? And you will arrive to whatever that true statement is for yourself, and you need to work on that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have to see how it works.
What was that?
I said, I have to see how that works.
Well, can I do something with you really quickly?
Yes, you can.
So you said that you have to earn people's trust?
No, I don't trust people.
You have trust it. Okay. So you always do it yourself, you always kind of has to be your way? Okay. What's your relationship with feeling the need to be in control? Are you
Yeah, I guess so. I'm
Okay.
a school teacher, and it's my job to control everybody.
okay? Yeah, you have fear of being out of control. That's your hidden belief.
Yeah.
So it would be recognizing that a statement would be is that I'm going to learn how to have a relationship with trusting the flow of life. What are facts that I know that will keep me from trusting myself? You know, things like that to break down control. It's control. And what's interesting is this. You're here and you're amazing and you're smiling. So regardless of what you think about yourself, there's another part of you that's already there. Otherwise, you can't talk about this other way you want to be. It is who you are. It's just crystallizing that. People are truly in depression. They're there. They don't hear anything I say. I've worked with mentally ill people. You know, when people are really angry, you can't say anything to them. But a person who had a moment of anger and said, I was angry, they have conscious awareness already. They're already in a new parallel reality of themselves. So it's crystallizing that part of yourself. Because there's a part of you that knows that's not true. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And trust me working with you. And letting yourself be out of control so you can be vulnerable. Is it interesting? All right. Yes.
I have a question about, so how would you track like a false belief or hidden belief to a behavior? Now, because that's kind of what you're saying, these people all have certain behaviors. So you're saying just keep looking at the behavior, find out why it serves you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, serves the...
Well, here's another way to look at it, is that it's strange you even think this, that there's something positive about almost all behavior. I know you're thinking, oh no, God, you think of these people,
No, no,
but
no,
there's
no,
people,
yeah.
so some people, that behavior might be just, they do something mean, it's because they're in pain.
Oh, yes.
To get out of pain,
Like
so-
hurt people, hurt
Yeah, hurt people hurt people.
people.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so, okay, so like I was thinking of, I had kind of an aha yesterday, a Comey group, and I realized, oh, you know, I have a behavior pattern of procrastinating, and I don't think about it a lot, because I don't judge myself for it, but, because I started thinking that, like, so why do I do it? You know, why do it? And then I thought, well, I know I can, because I know I can do that, there's something, I know when I have to rally and get something done,
I can
do
work
it.
with that. Okay, so
Yeah, so how do I
procrastinators,
work with it? Yeah.
I'll give you some responses right now.
Okay,
Maybe just don't really want to do it.
yeah.
That's one. Number two, maybe you're not that person anymore, literally. Your consciousness has expanded.
About a choice that I made, or, yeah.
Number three, there could be a fear of doing it wrong and being judged. Number four, taking responsibility for how it works out.
Yeah.
Five, you might not have the emotional bandwidth to handle that because you're dealing with something now. So I know some of those are hitting the nail on the head, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. So yes. So procrastination is on the surface.
Right. Yeah.
There's hidden beliefs
Yes.
that keep that in place. Just like abandonment.
Yeah.
What was that sound? I actually thought that came from your mouth. I swear, I looked over there and you're looking like this. I swear that I thought that came out of your mouth. That tripped me out. It was like, whoa, that was so cool. Do it again. Okay.
But I do have a question.
Yes.
So I get all this. And what happens when you have CPTSD that's a brand new thing for me. I just even heard that term for the first time like 4 days ago. And so all this information and awareness is coming in, but it's so stacked from so many ways. And then you think you've done ERMD and brain spotting and everything you can think of to do it. And you say, in this moment, I'm okay, this happened in the past, I can talk about it. But then you don't, you're having a normal conversation with somebody and somebody says something benign. You don't even know that you're triggered because you have no signs. And you do these behaviors that don't serve you. And you have this portion of you here that wants to get, but then there's all these things.
You're still trying to manage like PTSD. So
And you keep getting re-traumatized on a regular basis because of all of the things that you mentioned, the collective, the personal, the every single one, even, it's like even pre-birth stuff that's coming up.
So remember, like for most people, if they feel trust in themselves, their nervous system's going to be relaxed. Okay.
I have no trust in myself at all, and
Okay.
my nervous system, I've
Yes.
been told, is completely shot.
Yeah.
They do brain scans, they do.
So when you say
everything.
PTSD, that is kind of like the feedback you're getting from, say, psychologists or Western medicine. You have and I'm not giving you medical advice, but your nervous system is wound up, and therefore it's not going to be receptive to change. It's trying to protect itself. And so if you had been thinking this way before whatever trauma had happened, you would, if there was an actual thing.
Well, no, because the first trauma was at 8, then at 12, and then it happened repeat. So it was cyclical, and then more recently, it's been different kinds of trauma. But I never got over, because I tried to hide for so many years.
Yes.
That you realize, oh my God, I'm 45. I had all this stuff happen, and I don't know who I am as a person because of some of those traumas. I was forced to hide. Like in school, I couldn't ask questions. I couldn't be seen for fear that somebody would figure it out, which is exactly what ended up happening. But when you don't have that identity and you don't have that sense of self,
Yes.
and the fear and the nervous system breakdown and everything else, how do you unwind this? I feel like somebody
Because this is a
handed me
long,
bowl of
it's not complicated because you're saying it. It's more a lot for this here in front of all these people. So I'm going to give you a story of how someone might have processed something in a more difficult way and never healed, and how someone healed something. Okay? I'm going to keep this simple. So I had a woman come to me, and she she had, I guess, been raped like 5 times, and she was having difficulty in her present relationship, and she had said that she never trusted anybody. Like she had really major trust issues. And when the event happened, she was actually homeless at the time. It happened in a Vaughn's parking lot. And she said she swore that people walked by and just watched it happen to her. Okay? When she went to the police, they said, "What do you expect? Look at you." They blamed it on her. And so she felt like she couldn't be supported by anybody, okay? So even though she spoke about it to 5 different therapists, it was still there. And it was more that what had happened and that she couldn't get support. She didn't feel like she could get supported. Secondly, if she didn't feel she can get supported, why would she even believe she can get support by me? Even her belief system had a program and where no one can support her, even though she was paying for my services. Hidden beliefs are like that. They go that deep. And so it could be something intricate like that that you can break down of like, what is my relationship to healing? Like, what parts of this do I know and what parts do I don't know? So that's something to share with you. Here's another one. So I've worked with many women. I actually have processed over 500 rapes. I used to do a lot of trauma work. And for traditional therapy or people who work with people who've been abused, if a person was molested when she was a little girl to 8, 13, 22, like let's just say up until she's 35, a therapist might talk about each event and the story over and over again while the person's re-experiencing the trauma over and over again. So this one's more related to you because you might get something out of this. It's this. In each experience, the common theme was, I can't trust anyone. It's not safe to be me. So when I got the core belief in the first time it happened and the second time it happened, we didn't have to work with anything else. She kept creating those experiences and integrating in the same way. Yep, I was right. It happened again. The way she integrated. I'm not saying she caused it. I'm not going to even say she attracted it. But each time, it's my fault. Okay? All right? So if a person thinks it's their fault, then they also oftentimes don't believe they're worthy to change. Hidden belief. I'm not worthy to heal. Is that landing, Olivia? Okay. Okay. So sit with that. So these are the hidden beliefs I'm talking about. Because even this is a belief. I have people see me and they'll say, this is going to take a really long time. And I'll say, well, that's a belief. How do you know that?
So to dovetail with that,
Yeah.
so I do believe that I am worthy now.
Yeah.
And I still have like an identity crisis. Like, how do you make your way in the world being almost 60 now and being like, I don't have like this skill. I feel like I don't have the skills. Like I still am playing dress up in a game, you know, like.
It's interesting is that in my book is that it will break this down.
Okay.
Is that, remember those collective influences I talked about, the 11? This way of being, where did you get that? You got that from programming, from your parents, our culture, and so forth. So even now, you're saying at 60, you're measuring yourself with your age. Why? That's a program. That's a hidden belief. It's not true. Everything you say, it's like, you remember, that's a belief. If you feel resistance, it's not even you. If there's resistance, yeah, it's not even you. Because your true being is compassionate, unconditional. You're beautiful. So any thoughts about I'm not somewhere, that's your ego separating you from God, Spirit, Source. So whether I ever see you again or you get this book or not, every time you have a thought, oh, wait a minute, I'm right here. I mean, I have a simple one. I turned 55 in August, and this is late for me. This is actually late for me. I'm usually in bed. I go to bed early, and I get up at between 4 and 5 a.m. So I've gone out on events with my girlfriend, and these things are starting like 6, 7 o'clock. I'm like yawning. This happened 2 Saturdays ago. I'm like, damn. I'm like, it's just getting going. I'm yawning already. I'm like, I used to have more energy. I go to the gym. I'm healthy. I shouldn't. What should what? This is where I am now. Is my life okay now? Yes. Is it better than it was a year ago? Yes. Am I in a flow with my son? Yes. Okay, well then, for all this to work, I go to bed at 8 o'clock. So what? It works for me, and things got to work for you. It's your body, your rules. Any other questions?
You know, it's just interesting because there's a Hermetic principle that says all truths are half truths.
Yes.
So it's like right when you think everything's like the truth, it's like not necessarily, you know.
It's all a creation of your imagination.
In the moment, right?
It's all the creation of your imagination. So imagine the best.
Right.
Imagine the best.
You get to change the story to whatever you want
Everything's
because
changing.
it was not true anyway.
Yeah.
Well, if it doesn't feel good, it's not serving you, it's not expanding, then shift it. And this is not about throwing things under the rug. It's just recognize the power of our consciousness. And the more awareness we create in our lives, things open up. Yes.
On the thing you keep saying, all it takes is one. So I'm just wondering, like, because we feel like that's on the bottom, like that. We have this to work on, that to work on. But are you saying like the main thing is usually like a one main thing, or you start with
It's
one
a
and
really
then you move
great-
on to all the
It's a
others?
book title.
Yeah.
It really is a great book title. We talked about it before we started this, but it really is this. So most people that I worked with, we only worked with 1 or 2 beliefs. That's it. So remember, even here when I was answering some of the questions, the basics are this. I can trust myself. I am worthy. I can trust my decisions. That's it. I mean, there's surface ones, but typically it's a core belief that stops us from succeeding in all areas in our lives. People will come to me for 5 to 10 issues, but most of the time it's just 1 or 2 things, like core beliefs about him or herself. We get to that, you heal everything. Because here's the thing, when you heal that, your consciousness shifts. So everything has to change because that person who shifted their consciousness will perceive everything and him or herself differently. So I think that's it here for any more last questions? Okay. Yes. Thank you.